Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel, and I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of August 15th through the 21st. And we have a pretty big shift this week with Mars going into Gemini, where it is going to remain until next March 26th. So you can imagine that's a pretty big shift for Mars to stay in a sign that long. But some basic business first. The Astrological Winds channel is a free service available on YouTube channel every week. And if you have a YouTube account, just become a follower and turn your notifications on, and you'll always know when it is posted. It's also available on all kinds of podcasts, and all you have to do is look up Astrological Winds channel on your favorite podcast. If that one doesn't have it, try another. I know Spotify, Apple iPodcasts, Reveal, but there's over a dozen of them that carry it. Also, if you have Instagram, look up Astrological Winds channel on Instagram and become a follower there, and I post the links there. And I also usually post some additional stuff during the week as just comments when you're in Instagram. And also I put it on Facebook. If you want to follow me on Facebook, you do have to ask for a friend request. It is not a public account. Matthew with 2 T's, and then Lawton, Lauten. And anyone, like I said, this is a free service, and the best way to pay me back is to please pass the link along to someone who you think might be interested in hearing astrology. If you do want to give a donation, no amount is too small, and my Zelle handle is at the symbol at Matthew, once again with 2 T's, hyphen in the middle, and then Lauten. Now listen, another really important point, 2 things actually. If you need to get in touch with me about readings, I'm a professional astrologer. I've been doing readings for 20 years. I was trained professionally, schooling for 7 years before that. And so just drop me an email is really the best way to get in touch with me, and that's at matthue823 at gmail.com. And one more time, that's matthue823 at gmail.com. So really important point here, folks. Getting so much positive feedback from the blog, and it just keeps growing and growing, and I really appreciate that. For people who don't know astrology at all, don't get caught up on the lingo of the astrology. What you need to do is focus your thoughts and mind on the interpretation of what I'm telling you the energy means. You don't need to know the astrology in order to work with the energy that you know. So if you get caught up on the jargon of astrology and wondering what that means, you're going to get lost and miss the point. So please just listen, then, kind of block out. Now, there's most people who listen to the blog do want to hear a little bit of the astrology behind the reasoning that I'm saying what I'm saying. So that's going to continue too. And for those people, I know it's been a really positive experience for you, but I know that some people are still telling me, they kind of get a little bit lost. And I can tell what they're doing is they're hooking up on the astrological terms, which they don't really understand, and then they're missing what that interpretation is. So it'd almost be like going to your doctor or lawyer, and they be saying their scientific jargon or their legal jargon about why they have to do a certain way, and getting caught on that as to versus what that actually means to you as their client. So so you want to hear what the energy is. It doesn't really matter, what the astrological reasoning is behind it is my point. I'm getting a little long-winded on it this week, but I really want, folks, I've had several folks mention that to me, and that's really the only solution for you unless you're going to start studying astrology and learning it better. All right, so this week, like I said, there's a really major shift with Mars going into Gemini, where it's going to stay until the end of next March. But there's a few other things going on first, and in general, some really positive stuff this week. I really think this is a valuable week to be able to be in a flow and make a lot of positive moves, steps forward. And a lot of that has to do with Mercury. And it starts right at the beginning of the week, when this Monday, today, and Tuesday, tomorrow, Mercury trines the North Node Uranus conjunction that last week, if you'll remember, was in that very difficult T-square with the full moon. So this time we have a very flowing energy thanks to Mercury in a trine with North Node and Uranus. And this can really zap us with a lot of energy because we're going to be really into connecting with others. It's about making connections in groups. It's about sharing information, sharing ideas, being with people that have similar ideas than you, and therefore bring in a lot of new goals and knowledge mixed together, and a lot of exciting new connections with one another. And so that is very stimulating to the mind and life in general, especially since we value our minds and intellect so much these days. But it also can even bring like visions and dreams of the future, things that, we get a sense of where something can go, where something can be into the future with this energy. There's a lot of cutting edge, alternative, intuitive type energy available. So that really can align with the future many times and give us a planning or organizing mind about how to take the steps to get there, what kind of information we need, what kind of connections we need, what kind of sharing we need. But this is a very intelligent energy. Mercury represents the lower or intellectual mind, the rational mind, whereas Uranus represents the higher or intuitive mind, the inspiring mind, the creative mind. So when the two of them are coming together in a trine, there's a lot of harmonious energy available for the mind, and it is ingenious energy. It's very sharp. It's very intelligent. It's very adept at speaking and getting its message out. It's highly intuitive. It is a week when you can trust your intuition. And it's also a time of using technology to our advantage, using science and mathematics, things like that, to our advantage, using the occult, using astrology, things like that to our advantage. We have a very open mind under this energy. We want to take more in. We want to bring more knowledge into us, and therefore we're very open. And once we have that in us, we have the ability to influence groups or connect with innovative type groups, inventive type groups. We get a lot of perceptions and insights, exciting new encounters with groups, with people who are sharing new solutions, new ideas, new studies. It's a good time to take on new courses of study and further your education. The connections you're going to make now are just amazing. So a lot of that energy is, like I said, it's really flowing right now. And it's very stimulating to the mind and nervous system. But what's really nice is we have also the second exact hit, and I talked about this in the monthly briefly, of Saturn trining Pallas this week. And I think that really will give us the ability to take a lot of the ideas that we have right now and bring them this strong mental focus, a strong concentration where we can ground a lot of that energy into the reality of what's going on right now. So, and once again, it's going to flow around group energy. It's going to flow around people that we share a lot of ideas, thoughts, where we would like to see things go, justice, social type issues. And it's a strong intellectual connection again. So that really is where the Mercury can really flow in. So, we have two nice trines that really show it's a week where we can make these exciting connections about shared ideas, take in more information, and ground it within these groups and share goals and continue to move forward. And to top that off, another super beneficial aspect kicks in midweek on Thursday when Venus trines Jupiter, and they're both in fire signs. So once again, very strong, inspiring, intuitive energy. But what does this do? This is actually one of the best, most beneficial aspects traditionally when Venus trines Jupiter, because they are the planets that bring benefit when they come into our lives. And so this brings benefits through connecting with other people, expansion through other people. Other people will bring you the things you need, and vice versa. And that, also can bring financial benefits. It can be through other people, it can be through business, it can be through your own creativity somehow. And it also does do that. It stimulates your creative energy in this very artistic, positive, optimistic way. So it's very really good too for any kind of R&R type trips, like vacations and connecting like that, and being in beautiful places where there's a beautiful environment, beautiful surroundings, beautiful things. But yeah, it just really brings ultimately a lot of contentment through life and a lot of benefit through others on all kinds of levels, not just physical, but how you feel, and things like that. And then come Saturday, next weekend, is when the big shift of what I was talking about in the beginning hits. That's when Mars goes into Gemini, and which is good in a way, because Mars is going to leave Taurus behind now and get out of the detriment, which is, one of the weaker signs that Mars can be in. But what's super interesting, usually Mars is in a sign for about 2 to 2.5 months. This time, Mars is going to be in Gemini for the next 7+ months. And the reason being is it's actually going to go retrograde on Halloween at the 30th degree. It's almost into Cancer, the very end, so it's at the critical degree, and it's going to start going backwards on October 31st, Halloween. And it will continue to go backwards, retrograde, until January 13th. Of 2023. It goes back, going to go about 10 weeks in retrograde, and at that point it will have gone all the way back to 8 degrees Gemini. And so when it goes direct again on January 13th, it's going to take all the way until the end of March, another 10 weeks for it to get back to the point it was at on Halloween. So we are going to get a lot of time with Mars and Gemini and really get a deep understanding of what that can mean. Now, Mars and Gemini is tricky. I'm going to be honest with you guys. It's a very tricky edge in a way, because Mars has a lot to do with the head and being headstrong, and Gemini is an air sign. And so when Mars goes into Gemini, we have a tendency to get very headstrong, stubborn, aggressive, extremely subjective, and thus defensive about what we believe in, our ideas. We basically attach our ego to our ideas when Mars is in Gemini. And that puts us into a lot of defensive posturing when others don't agree with what our ideas are. And yet at the same time, we're in Gemini. And Gemini, is a sign of the twins, so there's always more than one thing going on. One of the interesting things about Mars and Gemini, it does give a lot of energy. It gives a lot of inspiration. It's extroverted, so it does fuel Mars. It's, what Mars believes in, it fuels our actions and motivates us in Gemini, but it's also very, it has a lot going on. Like I said, Gemini is a multiple, it's dual sign at least. There's a lot of things going on with Gemini. It's a kind of like a superficial energy, like a butterfly. It goes from one thing to another. So what this is showing is that Mars is going to have us involved in a lot of different projects during these next 7 months or so. And it can scatter the energy out. None of these projects may actually get finished in the next 7 months, is the reality of the situation. And when they go into the retrograde time, they may even take steps backwards. So there's like a lack of the ability to really focus and concentrate that energy that Mars usually has, because there's a lot of different interests that it has. But it does give a very sharp, acute mind, and it's like active about going about and collecting information that is very valuable to you and what you're trying to do, your projects and the things you're interested in. But it's very subjective, selfish, defensive and egotistical in a way. And so when people disagree with you, we can get into these very argumentative type positions, and so it can be a lot of verbal disputes and anger and frustration that can come up and kind of give a lot of an edge to the energy that's going on. What's to me too, there is a lot of positive energy that can be accessed out of this, because it does give this very acute mind, very intelligent mind that can grasp ideas quickly. The problem is what you can get impulsive about what you want to do with those things. So if they're only half thought out, then only maybe half the time what you're trying to do is going to work out. And that really is showing up with the retrograde period too. It's probably going to be a time period where we're really going to take steps back and show how our actions were not thought out well enough. And that's really the key to Mars and Gemini right there. If you want to work successfully with Mars and Gemini, you have to discipline the mind. You have to detach somewhat from your viewpoints, from the way you want to do things, because otherwise you get really coercive and you use like communication, your speech, any ways of communicating can come off as this very aggressive energy, which can turn other people off, or at least get them into conflict with you or put them into defensive posturing too. And then you have two, and that's one of the worst things about the Gemini defensive posturing too. A lot of times we realize afterwards it really isn't worth it at all. You know, you're literally arguing over semantics or something. It's just not worthy of that kind of energy, but it can get us really spun out, is a good way to say it too, where the mind and the active energy of Mars can push us into these places where we may even know somewhat that we're not doing the right thing, or we're, you know, putting ourselves further and further out into a corner, which, you know, can alienate other people and just really self-sabotage a lot of our own actions and projects. So that's really the key to Mars and Gemini, is to take that energy and discipline it and focus it. And before you make any kind of maneuver, and I mean any, remember Mars rules all our actions, so it's a lot of what we're doing every day. It's almost like a third of what we do every day is think about it. You know, think about what the results of what you're doing may be. You know, so it's going to be really interesting. And what's on top of that, when it goes into Gemini on Saturday the 20th, that's exactly the day that the asteroid Vesta, which is retrograde, is going to square it and go back into Aquarius at the same time. So that's going to be imprinted on this Mars period also, and that'll show that, you know, there can be a lot of posturing and defensive energy and division and aggression with groups that have different ideas about where they want to see things go, and that definitely can play out socially and in courts and law and justice and things like that. And interesting to note, just on the U.S. side, because we're going, United States, going through that Pluto return right now, and really, in a lot of the things in the United States are really in a period of large transformation. Note that the Mars goes retrograde right before Election Day. So that is not the best thing, obviously. There seems to be, and in Gemini, two different parties again fighting, against one another. So not good timing for that, and shows that, there's probably going to be a lot of distress and what people feel like is like maybe backwards energy around Election Day and afterwards. It goes through March. The retrograde period goes through January 13th, which is right around the time that the president makes his annual State of the Union address. So very interesting. There may be a lot of adjustment that has to be made by people in that period of Mars retrograde over the winter and the holidays, and then we'll see where that all takes us. But afterwards, okay. And one last thing I wanted to mention was on Sunday, Mercury again has an opposition to Neptune this time, and that's unlike earlier in the week. This kind of dissipates a lot of energy. It's like there's a lot of confusing communications under this, a lot of confusing thoughts, a lot of sensitivity to your environment and the people around you, and what you're perceiving going on in others' minds and thoughts. So a lot of times it's difficult to separate your boundaries from one another, thus not a good time to, hammer out deals or get into any kind of heavy negotiating or things like that. It's a time when there can be like a lot of secrets, a lot of half-truths, a lot of deceptions, and possibly a lot of out lies. But it's really a time when the mind can tap into the more abstract world. It's not, the rational mind is not really working as well, but there's a greater awareness of the psychic and spiritual world around us, and you can get a lot of inputs that way. It's an artistic Mercury. It's kind of like an impressionist painting, something like that. But yeah, a lot of misunderstood communications, and then and it can bring like a certain kind of nervous exhaustion to like just kind of like a little bit of an edginess that it's hard to rest, yet the nerves are kind of a little bit strung out. And like I said, that's also the time when Vesta is going to go back into Aquarius, retro back into Aquarius that day, which I mentioned earlier. And Uranus does sextile Juno that day too. So there are opportunities to connect a lot of that energy once again that we were talking about earlier in the week with the Mercury and the Uranus and the North Node and the sharing of information within groups and exciting us. This shows that it could bring opportunities to create exciting new partnerships. Okay, well, that's what I got for this week. This is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. It is available on YouTube every week. If you have a YouTube account, become a follower and turn on your notifications and you'll know when it's on. It's also available on more than a dozen podcasts. There's no reason to actually see the video. It's usually just me talking to the camera. Once in a while I'll show a chart, but that's the format these days anyway. And so just look it up on your favorite podcast, Astrological Winds channel, and you can just hear it whenever you want, drive your car, whatever you may, more convenient than having to watch a video. I also post the link on Instagram, so if you have an Instagram account, become a follower of Astrological Winds channel, and you get bonus material if you're an Instagram account user, because I do 2 or 3 times a week usually post some stuff on certain days that are very active, especially with the moon and things, triggering things. And I just put a couple comments down. It's not video or audio, so you can read it within seconds. So it's real kind of cool stuff. Check out. And also I do post it on my Facebook account, which is private. So you have to ask for a friend request first. And that's all I use Facebook for. So please don't expect other things from me on Facebook. It's Matthew, Matthew, Lawton, Lauten. And like I said, this is a free service. Please, 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 as soon as you're done, pass the link on to someone else you think might be interested in it. If you'd like to give a donation, no amount is too small. My Venmo handle is at, the symbol at Matthew, once again with 2 T's, hyphen in the middle, and then Lawton, Lauten. And also, the best way you can support me is I am a professional astrologer. I've been doing readings for 20 years. That was after 7 years of formal training and schooling, passing tests. So I've been doing this a long time. Do all kinds of readings. I highly recommend getting your natal chart done. Otherwise, you're kind of like a ship driving around in the night without any lights on, so that you know the energy working in your life, which is always with you, your natal chart. Also do predictive readings. I recommend getting them done every year around your birthday. It's valid for a year. It's basically an astrological weather report, just like I'm giving for the week right now, but for you specifically for the year. And every year, different energies come in and affect your chart. So when you know what those energies are, you can work much more effectively with them and be able to, get better results than just kind of hit and miss energy. Relationship charts is another thing. That a lot of people are interested in. Relocation astrocartography services are another thing if you're looking to move somewhere else or curious about where the better places are for you to be. That's a service available. Children's charts, if you're interested in taking a look, child's first 20 years of their life, that's available. Fixed star readings, which I also call for deeper soul purpose. A couple people have asked me about them recently, and it's someone who's looking really into beyond just the veil of the regular things astrology covers, and really looking into their deeper soul purpose. And then there's also elections. If you're having some big event in the future, try to hone it down to the best day and the best time on that day to get favorable results. Election charts, and then horary charts. If you're got a burning emotional question that you really just can't seem to get an answer to, sometimes we can get an answer through looking at a chart. So all types of different services available. Just inquire at matthure823@gmail.com. That's matthure823@gmail.com. And had some inquiries recently about classes. Yes, there are 5 beginning classes still available on Dropbox, $25 a class. You can check one out if you'd like to before you commit, or just buy one at a time. If you are a student, you can have them for $20 a class. You can show me an ID. So just, once again, matthure823@gmail.com. And if you would like an astrology lecture, you have some kind of event, want mini readings at the event, that's another thing you can get in touch with me about. And maybe we can work out some kind of agreements. That's, once again, matthure823@gmail.com. All right, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. And next week we'll likely be seeing, we'll be seeing a new moon in Leo. And so that should be probably our big feature of the week. And until then, a very, very positive week for creative activity with groups. That's what you need to remember. Go for it. Go for that. That's what you need to do this week more than anything, if I was going to sum it up in one sentence. All right. I'll see y'all next week.